So, there's a lot that's going on in the world today, and I wanted to continue with the book that I started yesterday, They're Lying to You by Jim DeMint. And this is a real treatise on what's really going on in our country, but it's very similar to this book of Ezekiel or Jeremiah or Isaiah. And it has to do with what part does God play in our world? What part does he play? Is he kind of a something that we resist or something that we choose to have as our guide? The Word of God, the scabbard is when the word, what the Word of God is placed in, but he's taken out the sword. When he takes it out, now he's using it. He's going to use the Word of God to punish, to correct, but also to guide. And so I'm going to just read a little bit here this morning. This is a powerful book. You got to get it. It is incredible. All these books I get, they're just so wonderful. I don't even need to say anything, but the full story. Don't panic. I won't try to evangelize you, but what you think about God determines how you think about everything. Say that with me. What you think about God determines how you think about everything. Okay, so this is our Attorney General said the left wing has really withdrawn, pulled away from the umbrella of classical liberal values that have undergirded our society since its founding. It really represents a Rousseauian revolutionary party that believes in tearing down the system. That's what's wrong about America today. All has to do with the institutions we have, and we have to tear them down. They're interested in complete political victory. It's a secular religion. Progressivism, Rousseauian, is a secular religion. It's a substitute for religion. They view their political opponents as evil. You are evil people. Because we stand in the way of their progressive utopia that they're trying to reach. For them, this pilgrimage we're all on is a political pilgrimage. Everything is reduced to politics. For people who don't have that perspective, politics is important, but it's not the whole purpose of life. Did you hear what I said? Why isn't politics the whole purpose of life? Because the whole purpose of life is God. And he's going to pull out his word. That's scabbard. Now listen, Barr's reference to Jean-Jacques Rousseau can help conservatives understand how progressives came to worship the government. Rousseau, an 18th century philosopher that disagreed with the American concepts of individual rights, argued that true happiness and freedom in life came only through submission to the government's will. And what happens if someone refuses to worship at the altar of the government control and join the group-thinking mentality of the political establishment? Rousseau's answer was, true freedom consists in the willing subordination of an individual to the whole of the state. Now, I have said this in historical teaching. It's just the difference between capital G-O-D and lowercase g-o-d. God is God, or the government people are God. If it's not forthcoming that God be the government, compulsion is necessary. But this merely means that the individual will be forced to be free. Sound familiar? Today's political left, whether you call them liberals or progressives or Marxists or socialists, are radical authoritarians who worship the power of government. If you disagree with their definition of political correctness, they will force you to comply, whether by public shaming, charges of racism or sexism, or using the force of government to compel you to submit. I would say just look at your water bill. Secular elites and their institutions, from the academy to the media, to the makers of popular culture, would have you believe their religion is actually science and reason. But that's a lie too. The progressive paradigm relies heavily on leaps of faith, not science, many of which are indistinguishable from self-made idols and superstitions. Climate change. Now, I won't take the time to prove to you that God exists, though he does. But their goal is to not liberate Americans from the strictures of religion, but to force their religion, progressivism, on everyone, putting themselves in the place of God and the place that God has been. The goal, the place that they want to be is the goal of every tyrant who lived. Every tyrant wants to be God. Power, the strong survive. Listen to the difference that I've said in my analysis at this point. Jesus said, love God and love your neighbor. The progressive says, the strong will survive and will take care of you. Whatever name this ancient religious ideology goes by today, atheism, secularism, scientism, liberalism, or the silliest of all, reason, it's just a big lie. It's a swindle, the theft of your foundation for logic and integrity. How do you like the book? Thank you. Our beliefs about God, morality, and objective truth, with a capital T, objective truth, are the most important factors in development of our character. Religion, especially the Judeo-Christian biblical view, has given America the values and traditions that have made it unique in all the world. What makes religion so important to political debates is that it is upstream of politics. It shapes the way we think politically. What shapes what you think politically is your religion, your belief. Your political views on taxes or immigration probably don't impact your theological beliefs about Moses or Jesus or the Bible. On the other hand, your beliefs about Moses and Jesus and the Bible very much influence your views not only on taxes, immigration, but every political issue under the sun: foreign policy, abortion, criminal justice, education, etc. Do you hear what he's saying? One of the first principles of secularist lie is the progressive reading of the First Amendment. Now, I just want to read that paragraph again because it's such a powerful testimony to what's happening. Religion, especially Judeo-Christian biblical view, has given America their values. Values about life. Values about liberty. Values about, it says in the Declaration, the inalienable rights that God has given you. Government can't give you any rights. God gave you the rights, the right to life. And so that the right to life means that it's going to affect life, the life of the unborn. It's going to affect your relationships with one another. Life. You can't murder. And so it says it's given America the values and traditions that have made it unique in all of the world. What makes religion so important to political debates is that it is upstream. It's above politics. It shapes the way we think politically. Your political views on taxes or immigration probably don't impact your theological belief. In other words, I believe taxes should be only to protect us, to perform that great thing called defense. And you know, America is actually, George Washington, the very first thing he did was to say, we are not going to attack anybody. You know what the Monroe Doctrine said? Monroe Doctrine, Monroe was one of the leaders along with George Washington. Monroe Doctrine says, everyone in the Eastern Hemisphere, we will not attack you ever. Ever. We will defend ourselves, though, if you attacked us. In the Western Hemisphere, you will not come and make siege works or armies to come against us. We will stop you from doing that in our hemisphere because we are going to defend ourselves. We're never going to take any country over, and we've never done that. What other country hasn't tried to expand? What other great, Rome, Egypt, all of the happenings of the Bible, all the Ammonites and the Amorites and Persian Empire and Germany and England and all, the one country was, no, we will not, we will only be defensive. Now that is because of a religious belief that people have the rights to believe what they want. And we, the Monroe Doctrine was in effect all the way up into our lifetime. And what took the place of the Monroe Doctrine? Does anybody know? What? No, the Bush Doctrine. The Bush Doctrine was we will not allow terrorism in the world. Terrorism. It's a very difficult doctrine, right? That's why we went over to the Middle East and in a 6-day war, a few days war, it was over with. But the point is that the doctrine changed because the terrorists did what? They flew into our buildings and killed our people. And so we will not only allow them, but we will destroy their places of being. And so that's why we went to Iraq. That's why we went to these Middle Eastern countries that were preparing to destroy us. And now the world is very, very small. What I'm saying right here now, people can listen to anywhere in the world. From this little teeny place here in Santa Monica. The whole world can hear us. That has been something new in just the last 50 years. And so what this man is saying right here is that your politics do not affect your religion, but your religion affects your politics. I think that's what he's saying. Your political views on taxes or immigration probably don't impact your theological belief about Moses or Jesus or the Bible. I mean, if we're going to have the Monroe Doctrine, great. You know, that's an expression, George Washington said, of, you know, our willingness to defend the people and their right to believe what they want. So he's saying he says your religion affects your politics, but your politics does not affect your religion. I'm not leaving Jesus for Donald Trump or for Joe Biden or anything. I'm not leaving Jesus for either of those. But I do know that one reflects Jesus more than the other. I am impacted by my beliefs. If you believe that your life is not important or the life of the unborn is not important, then I don't believe that your religion can go that direction. You can't kill people when it says do not murder. Your politics is not affecting you. What is affecting you is your belief, your religion. And you know what's happening in America? Same thing happened in Ezekiel. Their religion was changing. The Jews were following what? They were following the people to try to keep them from killing them. Some others would just like to be, prostituting their lives for the easy life, so to speak. Has that happened in America? Is it happening now? If we're all really serious about this, then we will practice church. That's what we did on Sunday morning when we talked about that. So anyway, your political view on taxes or immigration probably doesn't impact your theological belief about Moses or Jesus. And he goes on the other hand, your beliefs about Moses and Jesus and the Bible very much influence your views not only on taxes and immigration, but every political issue. I don't want my money going to, if I'm paying taxes, kill babies, to Planned Parenthood. I don't want it to go to, let's say, for example, the Paris Peace Accords, to take jobs away from people in America, 6 million jobs in just coal mining alone, and give all those jobs to the Chinese and the Indians in India. So they get all the jobs, and we lose the jobs. This is my country, this is my money. It's just stupid. $1 billion America sending over to France, and to be distributed to China. And you know what China's doing? They're laughing at us. You know what they're saying? We're ready to kill you. We're ready to take you over. Oh, here's the money to do it. That's what Obama did. That's what they did. That's what that thing was all set up to do. And you know what? Donald Trump came in and he said, no more. In fact, how can you change the climate of the world when you take away the coal jobs here in our country and give them to China? By the way, there would be probably a lot of American entrepreneurs that would go over there to China and lead those companies with the great coal techniques that we use here for clean coal. But that's not the way they say it. They say, oh, we want to save the climate. You're not claiming saving the climate, even by your own standards, if you're giving more jobs and more coal factories over in other countries. It's the same climate, you know. Remember when they had those big storms that blew up in Japan, and we washed ashore some of the nuclear garbage that here it washed ashore here, all the way across the ocean. How many people? How many of you know the land mass of the world? What percentage of the world is land? 33%. You're pretty close, Lou. I'm just kidding. 67% water. And how much do people of that whole, the 100%, how much of it do we occupy? Just take a little ride in an airplane. Less than 5% human beings occupy. And we're going to destroy the planet? You got to be kidding me. So you've got to use some kind of unfactual scientific garbage to prove something that's not even true. Why? Why? Because I want to control you. I want you to know there's no God. I want you to know that I, the leader, am God. Now, let's go on, because this is, listen, have you ever heard this said? This isn't in the book, but I put it up. When you're talking, hey, why don't you just shut up? Why don't you just shut up? Don't discuss what? Religion and politics. That's what they want. They don't want you to, you can't bring religion in, only politics. Why? Because our religion dominates our politics. It dominates it. We say, we are not going to serve you. We are not going to do what God has told us not to do. God tells us that we should come together every day and have a Sabbath, every week and have a Sabbath. We're not stop doing that. God told us we can't murder people. We can't do that. God told us to love people, even our enemies. Love your enemies. Love them. And love doesn't mean a physical love. It means, in the case of some of our leaders, God, pour out the spirit of righteousness upon them. Help them to know the right way to go. So, the progressives read the First Amendment. They would have you to believe that the framers did not guarantee freedom of religion. They guaranteed freedom from religion. Just two words changed. Freedom of religion to freedom from religion. And the dupes, being the American people who forgot to get educated, don't know the difference between to or from. And they say, oh yeah, my religion is I can choose the life of the unborn. I can choose if it's going to be quality or not quality. And if I choose it's not going to be a quality life, I will abort it. God's religion says we are free to exercise our religion. Nobody's to tell us what to do. How about some of these countries where they they have a law that says you can only have one child or two children, and all the abortions that have taken place? Oh my goodness. Freedom of religion is the First Amendment. They switched it to freedom from religion. According to this version of the Constitution, politics and policy are supposed to be God-free zones, forums for the fast-based problem-solving, not discussion of morality. So this is the politics that we're under today, that these leaders make up their own way of determining what you're to believe. How many public debates about pornography, LGBT-related controversies, religious symbols in public memorials, or sex ed curricula in public schools have been shut down the moment a traditional religious believer makes an argument about biblical morality? Immediately, someone exposing the progressive prism will fire back. You can't make religious arguments about policy. That violates the separation of church and state. I mean, you can talk about pornography. You can talk about LGBT. You can talk about religious symbols in public places, now some of them even being torn down. But the moment the traditional religious believer makes an argument about biblical morality, they pop up and say, separation of church and state. They can destroy your religious belief. They can say, but what is their religion? Really, what we're doing is we're fighting against two religions. And by the way, religion is made up man's rules. It's not God's rules. He's taking here's what God's doing. He's taking the sword, S, what's the next four letters? Sword. He's taken the word out. He's taken it out. And he's taking it out right now, here in America and in the world. And he is ready to slay. He's ready to slay. Are you going to be a believer and take, what he said, he came to the road, Jerusalem and the other road. Which road are you going to take? There in Jerusalem, they were pulling all them out of there, and because they were what? They were worshiping false gods. And God in his house will not let false gods be taught. I close with this. It's an illustration. We'll continue in the book, though. I'm only on page 12. Years ago, a church came for sale here in Santa Monica, over on Yale Street. And this is just a outright fact of what this book's saying and what's happening in America. It's a Missionary Alliance church. It was a Missionary Alliance church, and they had two choices. They had a choice to turn it over to condominium people, or they could sell it to us. We didn't have the money to buy it. We could barely be getting by. We've been getting by for about 40 years. But we got an air conditioning now. Hallelujah. It's going to be here soon. But we decided, God, we need to make an offer. And we could put our school in there, or we could pioneer another church, or we could do something. But God just laid it down to make an offer on that building for $2,600,000 to a church that basically is just running on empty all the time. We never had anything extra. You give it away, if we have extra. And all these other churches that we're supporting all over the world. But you know what? We bought it for $2.6 million. Many times we've had to sell everything to keep it. It's over there right now. It's a school, our high school. We rent out it to a Korean church, and we also have our infant care there. And we're at our most successful time of that, but it's not condominiums. It's not condominiums, because you know something in Santa Monica? If you take away a church like ours, we sell it for how many $20-30 million that we could sell it for. And, the denomination owns it. But the point is that if we sell it, there'll never be a church anywhere here. See, because they have, all throughout the state of California and all around our country, they have permitted out churches. You don't start a church with thousands of people. You start a church with a very few people. And so those very few people don't have the money to purchase the church buildings or make a church building. We'd have to, we'd have to have 4 or 5 underground storages for car parking. I think maybe in a couple of decades, if the lunatics on the progressive side have their way, we won't have cars anymore. So maybe that permit will go away. We won't have to worry about it. We could have more churches. You see, what we're talking about here is, do you believe in God? Do you believe in the God of Israel? Do you believe the God that brought us to the place where we're at? Do you believe in him? Or have you prostituted yourselves to the ways of the world? Look at how many people are here in the church in the morning. I'm hoping that there's a lot of you watching there, because we're praying to God. And you know what? He sounds like he doesn't like it when we don't worship him. And it's not because of his ego. It's because if you don't worship God, you're going to be worshiping something else. And that something else is this Rousseauian or other ins or other isms, communisms, that will bring you to a place of prostituting yourself against God. And so today, let's think about that. Let's think about what we're going to worship. Who are we going to worship? And what does God say in our worship? And pray for our leadership of our country that they would do the same. And so, that's it for today. See you tomorrow.